podcast, where we are, let's try this again. Hi everyone, my name is Monica Kretschmer and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Women of Inspiration, and this is the Women of Inspiration podcast, where we interview women that are making an impact locally, nationally, and globally. So today, welcome back, Linda Cruse. Linda, you are calling in from the UK this afternoon for you, morning for us here in Calgary, Alberta. So welcome back. It's great to have you on the Women of Inspiration podcast. Linda, you are making changes globally. You are a sought after world humanitarian. You seem to be at every disaster in the world. Linda Cruse's name pops up. You have three people very influential in the world that I think they have you on speed dial when something's going on. One is the Dalai Lama, one is Sir Richard Branson, and the other one is His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. So, wow, what a journey. Where did that start?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, it started, basically I was a very ordinary young woman in the UK, and I met my Prince Charming when I was 16, got married when I was 20, and you know, I have two gorgeous children. By the age of 24, Gail and Graham were born and their lives were starting, and it was magic because I was in my first career, which was a nurse, and I just adored it. I mean, I'm a natural carer, never wanted to be off the ward, just loved every second of my work and my family life. But as happens to many of us, a few years after that, the marriage dissolved and we got divorced. So I found myself as a single mom of two gorgeous children, aged about 4 and 6 at the time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, life then looked differently because as a nurse, I was not earning the money that I needed to really take care of my children. And of course, the antisocial hours, night duty, etc. So, and I really, you know, I had this real sort of strong sense that I needed to take care of my children myself financially and all that. So I really just decided that I was going to find a job that would tick all the boxes for me. And so for the first time in my life, I remember very clearly looking for, you know, a good job, good salary, company car, subsidized mortgage, you know, good holidays. And I remember looking at this job and thinking, oh, this might not really be for me, but, you know, I wanted, my focus was to care for my children. And so I took it. And yes, it did everything I intended it to. I was able to really provide for my children, but I did notice one thing. I started to drink a bit more. I started to cry myself to sleep. And I'm like, these are telltale signs that things aren't quite right. But what do we do when we're super mums? We brush that under the carpet. And I remember clearly thinking, you know, this is not good, this is not right, but my kids were happy and healthy and everything was going well until I was driving back from the north of England to the south. It was a dark winter's night, way before the time of mobile phones. And as I was driving after coming back from a very intense sales conference, I was stressed, I was tired, probably exceptionally unhappy. And I felt these terrible stabbing pains behind my eyes. It got worse and worse. And then I went blind while I was driving. How I stopped the car, how I got onto the hard shoulder, I won't know. I'll never know. People say it's intuition, it could be angels, but there I was on the hard shoulder of the motorway. And as I say, no mobile phones. So I literally sat there, petrified, angry. Why me? What have I done? I'll never see my kids again. I'll never work again. And of course, you get to then that cry of the soul. And I started to pray to a God I hadn't thought about for many, many, many years. And I made a pledge. And I promised, I said, if my sight comes back, I promise that I will find what I was born to do. And goodness me, I mean, people, when I went to the doctors, of course, it was temporary blindness, and they said it was stress blindness or hysterical blindness. But I kept my promise. And although my children were still dependent on me, so I couldn't just up sticks and carry on with what I was born to do, I made that pledge and I stuck to it. And but you know, it was interesting because I think it takes things like that, as in the pandemic that we're in currently, that helps you to have that reset button, right? And to start with, I hadn't realized how awfully miserable I'd become. I just listened to the conversations I was having with day-to-day friends, and I was just the most negative, unhappy, miserable, moaning, complaining woman. What I heard, what I saw was like, get over yourself. So, you know, first of all, because I couldn't just leave, my children were still dependent on me, I started to work on myself, because actually that is the only thing we can ever do, is change ourselves. And so I promised myself that I would change my language, you know, stop moaning, stop using. There were 3 words that me and the children agreed we wouldn't use, and that was no, not, and don't. And if anyone's got teenage children out there, that is very tough. And every time we said one of those words, we put £1 in the swear box. We had a very good holiday that year from the swear box. But it was great because it retrained our minds and our attitude. And when the news came on, which was full of doom and gloom, which I was repeating with great glee, I turned it off and put on comedy music, and I put on dance music and a show that was uplifting. So we really changed ourselves. And then it got to a very beautiful moment when my son came to me and said, Mum, it's time for me to go to the army. And my daughter said, Mum, I want to go to university. And I saw my beautiful children following their dreams. And I sat them down on the sofa and I said, can I leave home now? Because I realized I knew what I'd done all my soul searching and heart searching and looked at my skills and my capabilities. I knew what I was born to do, and I really wanted to start it. And seeing my children just sail off into the sunset with their dreams, it gave me the chance to do it.
So I love this, Linda, on so many levels. Number one, let's talk about the date. It's April 23rd. 5+ weeks ago was March 11th, and that's when the world stopped. And we entered into this great pause, as we know it, where it affects every single person around the world. So if you've gone through adversity, it's like, okay, there's another challenge for you. But if this is the first adversity or of this magnitude that you're ever experiencing, it could get people in a fear state. And so what I love about your story is that the beauty and your purpose came from the adversity that you experienced, right?
Yeah.
That is one. The other one is that you actually started your journey and your purpose when your kids are growing. Because I don't know how many women I talk to, they're like, so if they have not pursued the career and their career was staying back and looking after their kids and kind of, you know, just making that their first priority, they're like, I'm lost. Where do I find it? I don't even know if I have a purpose, right? But I truly believe that everybody does have one, and just as you have articulated, there is a purpose. And so I think the silver lining through this conversation I'm so excited about gives people hope. Yeah. So I want to read a little bit about your bio. So this is where, Linda, you stepped in to your greatness, was during your aha moment, I want to call that divine intervention, when you lost your sight. Because you're moving like a freight train and they're like, Linda, we need to stop you dead in your tracks.
Yeah, it's true.
Really so important. So you're described as a pioneer and entrepreneur. You're a leadership expert. You're an inspirational speaker. You're a successful author. And I have the book right here called Marmalade and Machine Guns, where you tell your stories of 16 countries, 3 continents, 12 years, 1 suitcase with 1 woman on a quest to help disaster-stricken communities back on their feet. You stepped into that at that moment. So let's talk about that first step.
Yeah, and actually, just for the people listening and for also for yourself, that book was written and published in 2012. I've now done 20 years on the front line. I have now covered 60 countries. I have on 6 continents. Still though, guess what? With that one suitcase, I have never, since the day I decided, and I said to my children, it's time for me to leave and fulfill my dreams and my purpose, I sold all my material possessions, house, car, books, paintings, everything. To this very day, I still own nothing in the world but one suitcase. So that just tells you how I found my passion, I found my purpose, and I promise you, and I encourage everyone to do this, digging deep for it, because I never want to have a day off. I never want to take a holiday. I will never retire. This is it. This is what I was born to do. And I find myself when people say, well, aren't you going to have a day off? It's like, why? This is the most rewarding, most enriching, most exciting I've ever had in my whole life. I've been doing it 20 years. I felt exactly the same today as when I started. And I have been very lucky because, as you mentioned, I've got the most incredible mentors, people like Richard Branson and Prince Charles and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And the great thing is as well, when people hear these names, they'll say, oh yeah, she's hanging out in the palace, she's swinging on a hammock with Richard Branson. Yes, I've done that, but I met them in the hellholes of the world. I met them in disgusting refugee camps, in ghettos in Johannesburg. And really, the gentleman that's helped me through my whole career with his mentorship is Prince Charles. He was the one that gave me the model that has been so successful. I knew that when people hear I'm a humanitarian, they feel, oh, right, she's a charity. I'm not a charity, never been a charity. I only work with the private sector. I only work with business people, people who generally are not invited in to be part of the problem solving solution. And I was with Prince Charles in a Tibetan refugee camp, and I was telling him with my passion that I'm going to work with the private sector and they're going to help me to really change the world. And he said, you think this was 20 years ago nearly, and he said to me, when they hear your passion and purpose and what you do, they'll get out their checkbooks and they'll want to write a big fat check. He said, leave the money on the table, do not pick it up. And I said, why would I do that? And he said, and this is the real jewel, money is always needed. But the real precious diamond of all of this is the individual. It's their time, it's their talent, it's their creativity, their innovation, and their passion, their compassion. And he said, then if they will engage, then use the money, take the money, implement the projects with the money. And I know that throughout my career, and as you say, I've worked on every continent on earth, the most major disasters you can think of, from the Asian tsunami, the big earthquakes in Pakistan, war-torn areas, I have always used that model. Because we do have 7.7 billion heroes on this planet. Every single person listening to this are one of those heroes. You have your own unique perspective, your talent, your insights, your gifts, whatever your job is, where you work, wherever you're born, your culture, your traditions. So it's the individuals that I gather around me, and it's them that are given the problems to solve, whether they're social, environmental, whether they're local or global. And people come with me to the front line. People do this virtually. And you're right, I actually do leadership training in many of the big international and local companies around the world. And always they are part of leaving their own legacy throughout the leadership training and solving a critical problem on earth. And it's been the greatest joy of my life.
That is so inspiring. As you're sitting here talking about that, I'm getting goosebumps because I think it's really important. There's so many things I want to talk about, and the advice from His Royal Highness about leave the money on the table. It's about the relationships. Yes, we need money to survive, but mentors in high profile situations, time, their relationship, it's human capital. Right now, I was on a call yesterday, and one thing that we talked about, which I stress more than anything, is I'm focusing on the human capital. That's why I'm doing the podcast. That's why I'm building the relationships with everybody. It's because we need to tell stories of superhumans that have so much knowledge to share right now. And it's so, so important right now in this space. While this is going on, more important than any other time is to build those relationships. So it's absolutely gold that you just shared that. I thank you so much. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you for that beautiful gift. We're done. We're not done, but that was certainly super valuable.
My real sense is that, and I think the pandemic is showing it again and again, it's charity, and being charitable is amazing. And I think most people have that within them. But, the most critical thing is to be capable, not to just think of being charitable, but be capable. And I'll give you an example of after the Asian tsunami of 2004, which was probably the most atrocious disaster I've ever been to, 250,000 people dead. When I arrived, there were literally, the sea was full of dead bodies, and I was in Thailand, and I'd gone there, and I went to the largest survivors camp, and when I reached there were 5,000 Thai people who had lost everything, livelihood, homes, jobs, destroyed. And I'd helped and just mucked in with their first aid and getting people back in the emergency phase. And then I thought, no, we've now got to rebuild their lives, to rebuild their dignity, their self-esteem, and their ability to self-sustain with their families throughout their lives. And all I did was I went to Bangkok and I asked the British ambassador to throw a party, invite national and international business leaders. And I said to them, who will come with me to the front line? Who will just come and use their insights, their observation, all of their leadership skills, come with me to the front line, because we need to find a way that these people can earn money now. I'd had a woman come up to me in the first aid tent, and with outstretched hand, she said, Linda, take my baby, I can no longer feed her. I could have easily done that, but it was like, no, no, no. All the alarm bells were going off. If I take your baby, you become dependent on me, you become a beggar, you lose your self-esteem. And all these people in the survivors camp were low educated, the bellboys, gardeners, cleaners. They couldn't just relocate and start their lives again. They had no bank accounts, no financial savings. And these business people came with me to the front line they spent a weekend with me. They looked around, they looked at the geography, they talked to the people, and they said, yeah, we think we've come up with an idea. I was like, fantastic. Business people will never suggest something unless it's going to be sustainable. They never say make 4 cushion covers, we'll try and sell them, right? They won't. We had 5,000 people to uplift. So they called me a week later. They said, with all our observations and conversations with the locals, looking at the geography, looking at the business market and the viability, they'd noticed acres of rubber trees still standing, the back, where the wave had hit, these rubber trees still stood. And they said, rubber is viable for the next 10 years. It's a great business. It's limitless. And I said, but how much does it cost to do the business? They said, well, for a family of 4 in a cooperative, 4 families in a cooperative, all they need is a coconut shell for the tree, a knife to scour the tree, and a rubber mangle. Total cost to get them set up in business, $250 US. Within 4 months, they were earning 3 times the amount of money they ever earned in the hotel industry, where most of these people have been working. As easy as that. It took the intelligence, the observation, the creativity and innovation of 4 strangers to come down from the capital city of Bangkok down to this disaster area, for them to just uplift these people in one weekend. And they made themselves redundant. There was no need to settle in and be a charity there for 50 years. They uplifted them with this idea. They became their business mentors and continued to mentor them for the next 5 years. And they're still successful entrepreneurs.
Incredible story. Gathering those key stakeholders. It's like, you just have to bring the people together. And I found that it's playing in my mind. That's business. You know, like, you don't have to wear all the hats. You just have to bring the people that with their with the experts together to help you build that. Right? So critical. And I was looking at actually your journey getting you to this point.
Yeah.
So I always think that, you know, I visualize this string, and in each one of my talks or every single event that I've done, and I've done over 80 live events at all sizes, and I put this little string on the table and I cut it up. It's about this little big. And what I realized, my aha moment, was that every single part of my journey led me to this place that I'm in now. And I always talk about the power of connection, the people that you meet, but also the experiences that you meet. You're nursing that job that wasn't paying the bills before, while you were a single mom, ended up coming in super helpful with your work as a humanitarian.
Oh yeah.
Right? Your next journey into your pharmaceutical world ended up being your business knowledge.
Oh yeah.
And your adversity was your passion. So bingo. I just, it's incredible. Your story is so inspiring, Linda. I can't even imagine walking into zones like that. I've read your book, okay, and you articulate it extremely well, from the smell, from the sights, from, you know, do you still remember the first time? Were you ever thinking, what am I doing here?
Oh God, yeah, I really do. And actually it was in Thailand after the tsunami, because I was very early, it was early on in my career. And I suppose, you know, the shock of, I mean, you know, I got off, I literally got out of the plane into a taxi in Phuket, started to wend my way, and all I could see were cars on tops of houses, you know, resorts literally crumbled like matchboxes, glass and debris everywhere. And I had to say to the taxi driver, stop the car. I can't go anymore. This is just going to be overpowering. And interestingly enough, I said, I'm going to get out the car. I'm going to walk to the edge of the cliff. I'm going to get a real big deep breath. And that was the worst thing I could have possibly done, because literally, as I looked over the cliff, it was full of dead bodies. And when I came back from that cliff edge, and I literally collapsed with my heart pounding, sweat trickling down my back. I mean, I was about to have a biggest collapse ever. My nursing matron from age 18 flashed in front of my eyes. And there she was in her starched white apron and her stern face. And she said to me, nurse, this is not about you. You are here to serve. You are here to make a difference. You are here to contribute. The most powerful thing for me to hear at that time, because it enabled me to get back in my body, back into my sense of purpose and passion. Why was I there? And when I tell this story, I want everyone to remember, when they're in a difficult situation, why you are born, why you are part of the family, why you're part of the universe, because this will take you out of feeling trapped, suffocated, disempowered. We all have a why. And at that moment, for me, I knew my why. I knew I was there. I was there to help those survivors who are in the most awful state. Now, I'm not saying that we must smother our own feelings, because we must acknowledge them. But sometimes we can become overwhelmed and disempowered by putting that spotlight on our feelings without knowing that actually we have such capacity and capability of service. And I know that the biggest way to get ourselves out of a downward spiral, like many of us are in the pandemic, is to think about others and to think how you might be able to reach out to a friend, have a conversation, mentor someone, even virtually. There's so much we can do. And that was my aha moment for my realization that it is that service element that can actually drive us on to be that superhero, that superpower, to actually drive us through the pain and the strain. I remember smelling just decomposing bodies and I'm like, all I want to do is vomit and exit this country as fast as possible. And actually, I was there to do something. So I did. Yeah.
That's powerful. And, you know, for the frontline people that are experiencing this right now, they probably resonate very deeply with that feeling of overwhelm and that we're all humans, right? We feel, we're that empathy that we have for each other. And so I think that's really great advice, is just to get back in your body. Just get back in your body and know that you're there to serve. And that's whether we're business owners as well. It's just like, okay, get back in your body. We're ready to serve. This is why we have our businesses. You know, this is why we're on the front line. This is why we're working the grocery stores and the hospitals, right? So, wow, it's powerful. So now get number 2 or 500. Like, it's just, I'm really, I love your insights because they're so relatable to everybody right now, Linda. And, you know, I'm curious, how do you get over, have you been scared for your life ever? You know, like, you have kids, you know, like, have you ever felt scared, ready to give up? Has that ever happened?
Interesting. So, you know, I have felt scared because I've had a number of near-death experiences. I've escaped from rebel army. I've had a gun at my head many times. I've nearly died of hypothermia.
Let's talk about that. You have a gun to your head.
Yeah.
How on earth did you get out of that?
Oh, goodness. Well, I've got so many different stories.
Which gun to your head, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, quite which gun. I mean, what I have always done is, the way I know I've survived my time on the front line, because I am real boots on the ground frontline aid worker when I'm in the moment, is that I always get a superb local team around me. So again, it's all about your support system. I don't fly in with 10 foreigners. It's one foreigner, me. I go into the situation and I build a team of local people. And the local people that come with me, and you know, we really do, me and journalists, often we go to the very, very edge of the front line. And of course, this happens. You can step into a situation where it's very volatile. And I was in Nepal during the Maoist time, and it was about 7 years of a civil war between the government and a rebel army. And part of my work took me into the remote areas. And yeah, I mean, it's scary. And it was always the local, really just people with such, they're just in tune with the earth and with vibrations and what's going on. And they had the common sense to get me out of these problems. So I've got many heroes in my life who have saved my life. I have. But I tell you what, you know, as this is, because I feel very much that, you know, we're in this pandemic together. I think of all the serious things that have happened to me, as I've related many. I've always had this combination, and I call it serious fun, because my life has been on the edge. I've seen more dead people than I ever thought I would ever do, from the age 18 right through till now. Grief and pain and problems and destruction and devastation. But I know you've always got to retain balance. So like in how we are now within the pandemic, this is why you've got to balance it as much as possible by finding ways to bring that joy and fun into your life. But in the programs I run and with the leaders and the people that help me to solve the problems, do you know what I've done? And you might think this is very strange because my work sounds very serious. I've created competitions and team games that I bring people into, so they use their intelligence, their innovation within a team game competition, often virtual. They leave a legacy and they completely transform the lives of people, local, international, could be climate, could be animals, could be humans. And I've called it the race for good. Because I believe that, because as you just rightly said, everything we do in our lives, it's all joining the dots. Now, for me to engage people in my world, which is solving critical social environmental problems, if you came to help me, you thought, oh my God, this is really, I want to cry all the time. I'm really sad. I'm in pain. You might come and see me once. Because what I've created is fun and engaging and compelling, people would prefer to come in and play the race for good with me and solve critical problems and meet incredible people rather than go to the wine bar, right? Because they're leaving a legacy as well as using their intelligence and all their skills. So I've done that. I mean, because I know that right from when I went blind, when I was driving right back then, I realized that stress is just something that drives you down. Stress is something that will break you up. And so and I think as adults, we don't laugh enough. We don't have anywhere near as much fun as we should. So I've intentionally created programs and games and competitions where people can dive in and be with me for 90 minutes or 2 weeks or 5 months. But it's easy, and you can do it from your armchair having a glass of wine. You can do it over an app. But you can have serious fun, serious impact, and laugh and connect and support and leave a legacy.
Amazing. And you know what I love about your enthusiasm for the front lines and being in the middle of the disaster. This is where you and I have a lot of connection. I relate a lot to you is when Alberta had their floods in 2013. Initially, the first 3 days, I was knee deep. It was a war zone. You know, homes were like, everybody lost everything overnight, and they had no time to prepare, zero. So the first 3 days, I was like everybody. I was lifting the bags. I was, clearing the muck and then it clicked for me that I was better served building the community than doing this, because what I saw was everybody walking around tired, fatigued, stressed, stuck, just petrified, fear. And I thought, no, I've been through adversity before. Now I can start building, and let's start making these people, bringing joy, creating a space of happiness. So I created a moat in the middle of the floods, and that I went to work on. I worked 18-hour days to do that. So that is what is needed right now, is those communities, is that sense of belonging, and everybody brought stuff together. So what you're doing right now and what you're continuing to do with people, Linda, is incredible. I think that you're so unique. I think your gifts and your talents that you bring to the world are, I'm so happy to have had this interview with you to be able to share just a tip of what you've done in your accomplishments. Now, I would like to say that I know that we're coming upon the end of our interview. You have a 9-year-old mom that you take over in about 4 minutes. You're resuming daughter duties. So in the midst of saving the world and leading these amazing reliefs in war-stricken areas and catastrophic devastations and solving the most critical problems around the world, you also do that at home. So you're just like everybody else. You're looking after your mom.
Yeah. No, I've got, my parents are in their 90th year, and this is where I knew I needed to be to make sure they were okay. And of course, I mean, that's the great thing, this emotional connection we have with our families. But also, I must admit, I do feel that, you know, my family is the world, and I do feel big responsibility. And that's why there's no way that I feel this is my time to step up even more, to be honest. I feel, yeah, I may have done 20 years of real unusual and quite incredible work, but this is the moment now to really step up and inspire more people to know how easy it is to engage. And I love the sense that I repeat this to myself often, you know, when you're stuck in the mud, start singing.
That is a great quote. I am going to take your picture, and that's going to be your quote for your picture.
I mean, my hobby, I'm a magician. I'm a fourth generation magician. That's another thing. My father's a magician, grandfather, great grandfather. You know, that's born in me. So I know that actually the best thing we can ever do, and of course I went blind to be reminded of it, is we must look on the bright side of life. There is always a silver lining. There's always someone we can help. A smile, a phone call is something that will just make someone else's day.
And before we end, you know, what's been burning in my mind as a flight attendant, in my, you know, years, I was a flight attendant. I fell into that. I started my speaking career at 37,000 feet. Right? That's what they're like. When did you start speaking? I'm like, well, when I fell in love with the microphone as a flight attendant, right? So one thing I have to ask you, and I giggle when I even gonna ask you about this, but your suitcase. You say that you still have the same suitcase, and you know, like, what do you have in your suitcase that you never, like, what are your essentials that you keep in your suitcase? What are some of the things that you never remove? Tell us your secret.
Well, the key thing is that I only wear black, right? So, you know, I don't have to start color coordinating. That's what I do. I have very simple pieces. Of course, I work in a lot of very conservative countries, so it's always long sleeves, long trousers. I always wear colorful necklaces, right? This, and always representing the communities I work in. This is from Morocco, the ladies I work in North Africa. And I suppose my stables are head torch, never go anywhere without it, because you've got
head torch?
Head torch, yeah.
A flashlight. Okay, yes.
Yeah. Head flashlight, yeah, because you have to be hands-free in my world. And always some aromatherapy oils, because the smells can be a little challenging. And always some lipstick, because you have to always cheer up the people you're with. But very basic, actually. Heavy boots and a pair of soft ones, but that's really it. And always pictures of my family. And a lovely picture I have of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and myself.
Amazing. So, cheerful lipstick, your headlamp, colorful piece, black, and I agree with you, black goes with everything. That's my uniform too. My daily uniform, as you can see, and work boots, so you can get to work.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to continuing the conversation. It's been an absolute joy having you. And thank you so much for joining our Woman of Inspiration podcast. For those of you that are joining us here today and listening, we had an exceptional interview with Linda Cruse. She is a world humanitarian on the front lines. Her company she is the CEO of Frontlines, and she's a best-selling author. I've got one book here. This is Marmalade and Machine Guns. You've also written a new leadership book called Leading from the Frontline. So I will include all your links. How could anybody get in touch with you, Linda, that is listening, wants to learn more?
Well, my website is lindacruse.com. So, and my email address is linda@lindacruse.com. And I welcome any questions, anything you'd like to get engaged with me, just let me know. It's been a real honor to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Amazing. And I'm looking forward to, my wheels are turning, because I'd love to do some sort of experience on the front line with you. I think that would be absolutely incredible for the leaders that I'm connected with that have that higher purpose. So let's continue that conversation. Have a beautiful day. Give your mom a great big hug and squeeze. And I look forward to connecting with you actually in person when all this is over.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Have a great day.
Thank you. Lovely.